Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Starting today, we'll be focusing on a new tournament that's happening in China. It's called the Yangming Cup. So this cup basically is happening in China, and they invited players from Korea, Japan, and China. And the champion would get about 56,000 US dollars, and the runner-up is about 21,000. Today's game is the round of 16. It's between Wang Xinghao 9P and Iyama Yuta. Iyama Yuta is playing as white in this game. So the game starts out like this, and Iyama decides to enclose the corner. Black jumps, and then white plays out the Kosumi. Here, black plays the corner enclosure. This is a little bit unusual to see, but of course, this is a very good move. And at this point, Iyama plays his 2-5 invasion, which is kind of the reason he has so many fans, is that he plays very, with his own style. It's not really following AI. He's playing very traditional, right? A more AI move these days would probably be pincering here, and you have just seen this move a lot. But Iyama has his own ideas, and that's why I also really like his style. Now today we're gonna be I'm gonna spend a little bit of time covering this kind of joseki because it happens a lot, maybe in your game as well. So of course, against this move, black has a lot of options, right? One is for black to play the extension, white slide back, and there's really not much to talk about here because that's just the end of the joseki. Black partially protects the corner, and white kind of gets the side. If you're a Moyo player, you can also think about pressuring on top. White crawls, black extends, white go into the corner, black blocks, and white extends to live the corner. White lived a very comfortable corner, but black gets a very strong outside, and now black can start building a big Moyo. So that's if you are a very big Moyo player. And then we're going to look at the variation where black attach. Now against this attach, white obviously has the extension and the wedge, right? So white extends and then play out the 3-space extension. This is a very boring joseki. I don't really want to talk about it too much. Now, a more complex is for white to wedge, but I think a lot of my viewers already know the theory as well, because at this point, black simply crawls on the second line, white turns, black extends, and white extends out. Today, the AI's move, instead of extending at the 2-2, black usually plays out the Hane to squeeze white's liberty. And now, but of course, nothing wrong if you want to play the old way, right? So this is also a very strong move, and here white can think about just playing the Atari and then Kosumi over here, right? That would be kind of the end of the joseki. Of course, black needs to add another move to prevent the flip Atari. So white gets to build on the left side, and black claims a very big corner. So usually white doesn't like this variation because black gets so much territory, right? So you could only choose this type of variation if you have a very good reason to do so, especially if you're invading, right? This would be very nice for invading. In today's scenario, it's not necessarily that good, right? It looks like you're building here. It is okay, but it's not like ideal because black can still invade here. So that's why that variation was not played in the actual game. Now the third variation is for white to tenuki. The tenuki is also very interesting in my opinion. Well, the idea for playing the tenuki is that because white always has the possibility to play the wedge, then black has to be careful as to where to play here. Now, for example, if black eventually plays out something like this, then white can make use of this kind of move to aim at the wedge. That's a very advanced idea, right? So first of all, this move is very strong against your stone over here, right? But if you play something, then white can make use of this stone and play the wedge, and this will make the wedge a lot more serious. So that's the idea, right? So once we already have an exchange over here, black has to be careful as to where to play the extension. So that's the kind of the third or fourth variation for this 2-5. Now today I want to present to my viewers an interesting thing you can try out that is for white to attach on the second line. This is a very nice little trick slash joseki move. You won't really fall behind if your opponent plays correctly. The idea is to over-concentrate black. If black doesn't know what to do and just pulls the stone back, this is exactly what we want because now we can just extend and play out the 3-space extension. We can see that all of a sudden white has a favorable exchange. right? Black is over concentrated, and later on white can play some sort of move to try to coordinate with the stone on the second line. Now, similarly, if your opponent just played a hane, then we can hane and then play out the same variation over here. We can see that these two stones are also good exchange for white, because white later on invading here would be a lot easier thanks to these two stones. So that is the idea of playing the attach before extending. Now, the most fierce variation is for black to extend in. In this case, you have to play a little bit more careful. Here, white has to wedge. Black Atari, white extends, and black blocks on the second line. White turns, black pulls the stone out, and white now plays out the extension. The result of this is we have the same variation as before, but we got to exchange this move, which is not bad for white because it gives white more aji in the corner. Now, if black extends, then white can now, white later has ways to fight this. For example, white can squeeze over here, right? This is a very nice way to make use of your aji. Now we have an Atari. Black has to respond to this, and now white can crawl on the second line. Now, temporarily, this might not be the perfect variation for white. I mean, you can play like this, right? And the idea is for you to hane here, right? And of course, before you hane, make sure you exchange this, right? Before these guys dies, you need to get this exchange. And then white plays hane, black captures, and this is kind of the end of the joseki. The result of this is white kind of gets the profits on both sides, right? White can now play out the 3-space extension, and white also has a bit of supporting stone for the invasion over here. Now, of course, many of my viewers might not like this because black has a gigantic corner, right? So that's why I'm saying, even if the variation I just presented was good for the win rate, maybe you're not comfortable with that. But my point is, at this position, any move over here would be a sente. So you can choose when to drag this stone out and then get that variation, which is very nice, right? You're leaving some aji behind, and later on you can choose how to use it. So that's the idea of getting this exchange in. But anyway, that's just kind of like a joseki type of move, which is very niche and not many people know about. So I'm presenting here today. All right, that's some joseki theory. In the actual game, Iyama comes back and take this giant move to pincer black over here. Black now plays the extension, and white now attach into black. A bit of a similar idea, just a different way, right? Trying to over-concentrate black. Black hane, white extends, and black connects. White plays out the 2-space extension. And at this point, black comes back and pincer white. Pincer a little bit low. Now here, this is a little bit more difficult because black has a very solid triangle here. It's a little bit more difficult for white to play the wedge. In the actual game, Iyama plays very creative, and I really like his style. This might not be the best move to play, but just the idea behind it is absolutely amazing. Black plays the hane, and white plays the hane over here. Now, if black plays in a different direction, then white will hane as well. When black connects, white also connects. When black jumps out, white will extend, and we can see white is just way too comfortable over here. And the problem is that we can see that these two groups are disconnected, which means that white can attack both of them. So that's not a great position for black. In the actual game, black hanes, white hanes, black connects, and white connects. At this point, black simply extends up, a must-play move for mutual influence, right? We're trying to suppress white and build ourselves. And here, white plays the wedge, black Atari, and Iyama realizes that immediately he cannot just drag the stone out. Therefore, he plays the attach over here. Black plays the tiger's mouth, white pulls the stone back, and black extends down. And at this point, white plays the exchange, and then Iyama immediately invades over here, which is very, very aggressive. I'd be thinking something like pincering or expanding from my side, but Iyama plays very aggressive, goes in and just destroy this territory. Black hops out, white plays the attach, black hanes, and white peeps. This is all sente, and here when white pulls back, a lot of my viewers might just fix the cutting point here because obviously that's a very big cutting point. But this would be a very big mistake actually for professionals because now when white pulls the stone back, white is very comfortable living here, right? And then black doesn't have any territory left. And what are these four guys doing? I'm not exactly sure because white is already, having 2 stones waiting here. So there's nothing to build. So black cannot afford to connect here right now. It's too slow. In the actual game, black plays in a very active way, right? This is the professional way of fixing the cutting point, right? By putting threat on our opponent, so our opponent doesn't have the time to come and cut us. White extends, and here black plays out the second line move, right? Making sure the corner is captured and putting max pressure on white. Well, of course, white now has to cut. Black extends and fight this out, and white plays out the Kosumi. Because if you just Atari, black can Atari on top, and then when you capture, black can Atari from here, and this is not good for white. That's why Yama plays the Kosumi. Black honeys, and white comes back and capture the stone over here. We can see that white has made himself very comfortable here, but of course black needs to get the compensation from pressuring the corner. White honeys, and black comes back to attach here. Because if black just honey and connect, then there's a very serious cutting point. So black needs to first deal with the group over here, and here white plays the honey. Black honeys, white connects, and black Atari. White connects, black extends back. We can see that it's very well played by both sides. Black is able to build a very nice group over here with points, and white also managed to get his group to safety. Next up, white plays a honey here. That's a very necessary move. If white just rushes to play somewhere else, then black can immediately get rid of white's ice space like this. And we can see that white doesn't have a single eye, and you have to pay for your weak group. White plays the honey, black now turns, and white now comes back to cap the stone over here. I would say this is an inaccuracy by Wang Xinghao actually, because I don't really see why this move is so valuable that you have to play so early in the game. Maybe a better move is for black to directly drag the stone out and break the territory over here. Or even if black plays something like this would be very valuable. But turning here, as we all can kind of see, it's a little slow at this point. Of course, it has value, but it's really slow right now. White now cap black inside, and here black decides to jump over here to suppress white. So the idea for black to play like this is because black is worried. Let's say, for example, black really wants to play a move here, but then this allows white to also play the Keima, expanding his territory and also limit black. So before black plays the Keima, black wants to suppress white first. But Yama is a fighter, therefore he connects and push and cut. Now we have a very fierce fight breaking out in the center. Black has to save the stone over here. Black cannot just sacrifice, okay? A lot of my viewers might, especially if you're not in high dan, would be like, oh, why not just extend? I'm happy with this. But actually you cannot be happy with this because you basically lost your stone here. The reason this is a big deal is because it's kind of like you throw in one stone inside your opponent's territory. And this drastically boosts the territory white has, while you didn't really get much, right? You could have just played Hane and extend, but instead you sacked one stone. So that's not acceptable for black. Black has to drag the stone out, and white now blocks over here, preventing the weakness. Black Atari, white runs, and black now also runs, right? For the same reason, you can't just sacrifice the 2 stones. So black runs. Of course, this run comes with a lot of calculation, right? Like, obviously, white cannot just finish black off here, right? Otherwise, Wang Xinghao wouldn't be sitting here and playing, because that would be a joke, right? So white has to connect like this, but looks like it's terrible for black, but actually black can just push and push. And white is collapsing, actually, because there's Atari, so white has to fix, but then black can simply extend on the second line, right? Locally, this is already black heals white, but black also has the first line Kosumi get back. There's another cutting point over here, so white cannot hold this, right? This is game over. In the actual game, white turns over here. That's a correct move. And black plays the Hane. White cuts, black Atari, white connects. Very fierce fight, right? Really, you can't make any mistake or missteps. White Atari on top, black connects, and white connects over here. This is always a fatal problem for white, so white has to spend a move. And at this point, black plays the tesuji to play this driving sequence. And here, Yama plays the turn over here. This turns out to be a very big mistake by Yama. So, but the thing is, it's very hard to avoid this mistake because this is just human intuition. Like, you have to play here, right? Who would have known that the correct move is to capture here and let black Atari like this? Well, the idea here is not for white to connect. Actually, white should Tanuki here and just play in the center. When black captures, we can see that, yes, black is very nice locally, but white gets to play a move on the outside, which is absolutely huge, and white secures some territory over here. White still have 2 lingering stone over here. That is not completely useless. So the result of this is that this is more or less an equal game if Iyama plays like this. But the cruel part is that this is extremely hard to find. It's extremely hard to know that that was equal, because you lost 3 stones over here. It looks terrible, but it's actually not terrible. So Iyama played like very human move and just runs the stone. The problem with this is that after black simply connects over here, we have a very serious miai. Black is looking at extending here, killing the 6 stones over here, or black is connecting in the center. Now, if white comes back and fix, then black will connect like this. White extends, and we can see that even if black plays a move to secure the territory, first of all, it's a lot of territory over here. But more importantly, white still is not home. Black can, cut off white anytime. But if white spends a move over here, that is way too slow. Now black can start the fight in the corner, and black is just leading in terms of territory. I went back a bit too much. All right, so at this point, when black connects over here, Iyama decided to capture in the center, preventing all the problem I talked about. But obviously that comes with a huge cost because black extends on the second line. Oh my god, this hurts. Because when white blocks, black attaches, this whole thing is dead. The worst problem is after this exchange, white still has to live here. So white plays the Hane and extend, black blocks, and white plays the tiger's mouth. So white is alive now, but white lost this in Sente. So black, this was probably like 20 points Sente, which is very big. Like, I haven't seen 20 points Sente like for a long time. Like 20 points Sente, it's ginormous. And yeah, and that's the sad part. But at least Iyama got some compensation over here. Of course, the game is leading for black at this point. But I think white still has some chances in this game. So let's see what happens. Black now jumps in the center, and white comes back to secure the territory over here. Black plays the Keima, and white now blocks in the corner, completely killing the stone over here. Black goes for the invasion or reduction. And here, of course, Iyama cannot just play like this. This is not the way to win game. So in the actual game, Iyama decides to extend out, strengthening the center and trying to put pressure on black. Black Hanes, white Atari, black Atari, and white captures. Very nice exchanges made by black. Later on, black can put pressure once again on the white stones. Black now jumps down to destroy white's territory. White caps black on top. Black attaches, white blocks. White bumps into black, black blocks, and white plays the peep. Black has to connect, and here white plays the Keima in the center. Right, we can see that very well played by Iyama, putting max pressure on this group over here. This group doesn't really have an eye, so Wang Xinghao has to play very careful. He plays the attach, white Hanes, black claims, and white connects in the center. Here, black plays out the Kosumi, black white blocks, and black attaches over here. This sequence is absolutely beautiful from black, right? Always we're trying to attach your opponent. Every move black played was following the same principle, right? When you're in trouble invading, I've been saying this a gazillion times, but the best way is really, really to attach your opponent. And we see this all the time in professional games. White extends, black has to connect back, and white now goes for the final fight. Iyama realizes that locally there's no way to catch black, therefore he goes for an invasion. Like, if there's a chaos breaking out, then he can later on maybe come back to kill this group over here. A very strong move, right? This is how you should play when you're behind. It's a very ferocious move over here. All right, so now this is just purely close body combat, right? This fight is very fierce. Black cannot let white get out without any consequences. Black plays the Keima, trying to kill white stone. Iyama pushes, trying to go for the counterattack. Black prevents that, and white pierces through like a dagger. Black blocks on top, and white pushes on top. Black has to prevent the weakness with this Hane here, and here white plays the Hane. Looks like white is out at this point. Here, black, first of all, before you go for the attack, you have to always watch out for your weakness. There's a cutting point here. Therefore, black jumps over here, fixing cutting point, and also looking at jumping down on the third line. White now pushes over here, goes for a counter attack. So if white just responded to this move, then black gets to play the move first on the outside. And Iyama thought that this was not going to work for white. Therefore, before white jumps back, white decides to go for a counter attack, right? If black just go for the trade, then white is also able to claim a lot of profits by killing the 2 stones over here. So black did not do that. Instead, black decided to drag the stone out, putting pressure on both groups. White pushes in and black extends. And here, white decides to block over here. And now we can see white is successfully home. There's no way to disconnect white. The reason is that if you just push and cut like this, white can Atari, right? And we can see that this is white kills black. So white pretty much connected the whole thing, which is a huge gain for Iyama because this used to be dead and the entire moyo is destroyed for black. Black has to get the compensation from the outside. So first of all, black jumps down to claim partial compensation over here, which is a very big compensation. And at this point, white Atari, black connects, and white keeps pushing, trying to kill the group in the center. Black extends, white keeps pushing, and black now blocks. Here, white plays the squeeze over here. Now, white cannot cut, right? The cut is not going to work because black can squeeze and then wedge. And then this is just a ladder, right? Because we can see that at this point, white is just dead. So white cannot do that right now. Even if this cut is very serious, this doesn't work tactically right now. That's why Iyama plays this move first, preparing to cut. But then black doesn't care. Black just plays the tiger's mouth to prevent the cutting point. At this point, Iyama goes for the final attack. He Atari and then pushes through here. The idea is that white is trying to kill black here once again. Now, of course, black cannot live locally because there's not enough ice space. But after the Atari, black decides to Kosumi here. This is the tesuji of the game. After this move, white is in a very difficult situation. The idea behind this move is that black wants to sacrifice the group on the left and try to kill white on the right side. If they go for this trade, then this would definitely be winning for black because this group is definitely larger than group over here. White connects, and black now plays the tiger's mouth. Now, the reason white cannot connect like this is because black can cut. When you Atari, I can run. And then you can fix the problem over here, but look at what happens here. Black's group revive with a lot of points. So white cannot accept this. That's why white connects over here. Now, if black plays the wedge, then white Atari, and then Atari. And it looks like white cannot Atari here, but actually white can just ladder black, right? We can see that black is just dead. If black takes, white can Atari, and then Atari. And of course, if black connects, we can just Atari like this. And this is also game over for black. So black cannot wedge right now, but black can prepare for the wedge. That's the problem. Now white has to connect in the actual game. And here black plays another tiger's mouth, very similar shape. And then all of a sudden, we can see that this trade just happened, right? Iyama killed the group on the left, but he lost the group on the right side. At this point, white goes for some struggle over here. Black pushes, white plays the jump, and black bumps into white. And this ends up to be the last move of the game. At this point, Iyama decided to resign. The reason Iyama resigned is because this dragon is dead. If white captures, then black can squeeze over here. White only has one eye, and there's no... it's actually a very clean kill, right? There's nothing white can do. This wedge doesn't do anything, right? This just doesn't do anything. So, yeah, so that is just game over. The wedge over here is also not working, right? If you squeeze over here, white, black can connect. So, there's a connection over here, and there's also connection over here. So, like this also, white cannot cause problems on the outside. Now, a more interesting variation is for white to Atari here. Black needs to play the extension. Actually, what black has to be careful here because white does have some Aji. So white's correct move, or I mean the resilient move, is to play like this. Black connects in the center, and white pushes over here. Black has to cut, And here, white can push and cut black. And we can see that there's a liberty fight over here. But unfortunately for white, this liberty fight is not even close because black Atari and then make knight over here. This is a sente. White has to connect. Black connects, and white plays out the Kosumi to get rid of the second eye. But then we can see that at this point, white has 4 liberties and black has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right? Black has 7 liberties over here by doing nothing. So 7 versus 4. And at this point, it makes sense for Iyama to just resign because it's not even close. So anyway, I think overall this game has been very high quality. I hope you guys enjoyed it. The round of 16, Wang Xinghao won against Iyama. He goes into the round of 8, and I will keep covering the matches for the next week. So stay tuned. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a future video when it comes out. And I'll see you guys in the next one.